Exposed power lines keep causing fires and keep not getting buried underground because it's expensive. I've heard people say, do you want to pay more taxes to fund this? No. I want you to use the exorbitant taxes you already collect to prioritize it. California is the place that spends money and gets nothing, which is why you may have noticed when the fires broke out, no one escaped by high-speed rail. Am I against a lesbian being chief? Of course not. Do I think a lesbian can do the job? Of course I do. And maybe she's the best person for the job. Or maybe they really wanted a lesbian in that job, and she's just the best lesbian for the job. And with essential services, that's not good enough.
Bill Maher just went nuclear on the Democrats. And the blast hit harder than a vegan at a Texas BBQ. You could almost hear liberal Twitter choking on their soy lattes as he torched his own party like it was amateur night at a flamethrower convention. The roast was so brutal, I had to double-check he wasn't secretly rocking a MAGA hat under that trademark smirk. At this point, Maher's allergic to hypocrisy, done with the delusion and practically sliding 1 foot across the aisle. If you're here for raw political truth bombs with zero coding, buckle up. This ride's just getting started.
Axios ran a story on how getting the water out of the hydrants in Pacific Palisades was more complicated than it seems. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's very complicated. That's why I pay 13% of my income in this state every year to people who I assumed were working on things like this.
California has some of the steepest taxes in the country Osbleed territory. You'd think all that cash would buy at least a little competence. But nope. The Golden State keeps raking in billions, while running things like a flaming dumpster wobbling downhill. And Bill Maher, he's officially out of patience. The man looks one eye roll away from flipping the whole table as he tears into Gavin Newsom. Once his golden boy, now his favorite punching bag. Maher unloads on everything: wildfire mismanagement, crumbling infrastructure, and a bureaucracy that collapses faster than a trampoline under a bowling team. It's the kind of takedown that makes you wonder, how bad does California have to screw up before even loyal Democrats start sounding like Fox News anchors?
When asked why so many of the hydrants in the Palisades ran out of water, Governor Newsom said the local folks are trying to figure that out. Yeah, you got to do that before the fire.
Why am I not even remotely shocked that Gavin Newsom and the Democrats got caught flat-footed again when fires ripped through Pacific Palisades? Because this is their trademark routine. Lots of big talk, plenty of jazz hands, and zero real follow-through. The party has turned performance politics into a full-blown Broadway act, only with more wildfires and fewer solutions. They'll host a glittery climate gala, pose for selfies with Leonardo DiCaprio, and call it progress. All while skipping the basics, like clearing brush or updating fire prevention systems. It's theater, not governance. Standing ovations as the state literally burns. Expecting swift, practical action from Democratic leadership. Good luck. What you'll actually get is a hashtag, a podium speech, and probably a shiny new tax results sold separately.
At least in the Palisades, the hydrants were still there. 300 other ones around the city are just gone, stolen for parts. One of the 3 reservoirs for the Palisades was offline at the one time of year when it was most needed. LA's Mayor Karen Bass, the Nero of American politics, was fiddling in Ghana while the city burned and later placed the blame on 8 months of negligible rain and winds that have not been seen in LA in at least 14 years. Yeah, that's not that long a time. Maybe look in the history books to see how our ancestors handled it back in 2011.
An empty reservoir in wildfire-prone. California isn't just a slip-up. It's a government faceplant, complete with the governor and mayor wearing matching dunce caps. In a state that basically bursts into flames every summer like clockwork, how on earth is there no emergency water reserve? This isn't the Oregon Trail. We've got satellites, smartphones, and AI that can write your emails. But somehow, no one in charge thought, maybe we should hold on to some water. It's not just incompetence, it's a flaming badge of shame. With billions vacuumed out of taxpayers every year like it's a fundraiser for government waste. there's zero excuse. Our bucket-hauling, mule-driving ancestors would have handled this with more grit and a fraction of the resources. But instead, we've got leaders more interested in striking vogue poses than preparing for fire season. So when the next inferno hits sand, don't blame climate change. Blame the clowns who drained the reservoirs while rehearsing their sound bites.
The mayor said about cuts to the fire department's budget, there were no reductions that were made that would have impacted the situation. The fire chief here had a slightly different take. She said, "We are screaming to be properly funded. And yes, the budget was cut, and it did impact our ability to provide service. And by the looks of all the fire engines in the boneyard out of service because we didn't fix them, she's right."
I remember Gavin Newsom smugly parading on camera about his shiny new fire trucks and high-tech helicopters that could supposedly sniff out wildfires like bloodhounds with rotors. It sounded like Top Gun. Fire seasoned till reality barged in. Turns out it was just another glossy PR stunt with more flash than follow-through. Meanwhile, nearly 100 fire trucks are sitting idle in garages like museum exhibits, while the state cooks itself into charcoal. And Karen Bass, she's out there insisting that slashing the fire department's budget didn't make a difference, right? That's like saying cutting your car's brakes just makes it sleeker. This is why Bill Morand, about half the voters are done with Democratic leadership. It's not just the Olympic tier incompetence. It's the non-stop lying, spinning, and gaslighting, like it's performance art. They promise you the moon, deliver a pile of ashes, and still expect a round of applause.
Exposed power lines keep causing fires and keep not getting buried underground because it's expensive. I've heard people say, "Do you want to pay more taxes to fund this?" No. I want you to use the exorbitant taxes you already collect to prioritize it.
California's got some of the highest taxes in the country. Yet the place is crumbling like a Jenga tower during an earthquake drill. Meanwhile, over in Texas land of zero income tax and brisket-fueled confidence, they're attracting businesses, building real infrastructure, and running emergency services like they actually read the instruction manual. California, on the other hand, is drowning in tax revenue and still botching the basics. Homelessness is exploding. Services are falling apart, and wildfires keep turning entire neighborhoods into charcoal. No wonder people are fleeing faster than avocados on sale. Taxes are squeezing residents dry. The cost of living feels like medieval torture, and all Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass offer are promises with the substance of cotton candy. The real kicker: they don't even bother pretending to care. Families are U-hauling their futures to states that actually function, while Newsom and Bass double down on dysfunction, pointing fingers everywhere but the mirror. The system isn't broken. It's being driven off a cliff by leaders who think GPS stands for gaslight, posture, spin.
The power lines that cut through Topanga weren't upgraded because it endangered an herb, the milk vetch, which sounds like something they serve at Passover. I mean, talk about not seeing the forest for the trees. You know what the absolute worst thing for the environment is? Wildfires. A 22 study found that the smoke from just the two in 2020 wiped out 18 years of carbon reduction in the state, which means we suffered the pain of driving those early model Priuses for nothing.
Only Democrats could reach the level of delusion where they risk human lives under the banner of saving the environment. And the kicker: their eco-policies end up torching the environment instead. It's like trying to douse a blaze with gasoline because it feels more sustainable. Years of real progress go up in smoke because the priority is optics, not outcomes. Enter Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass, armed with their trademark woke wisdom and wielding it like a butter knife. These two masterminds decided not to modernize California's ancient, sparking power lines. Why? To protect a plant, not a forest, not an endangered species, a weed, the legendary milk vetch. That's right, they gambled with wildfire roulette. To save something that looks like garnish on a bad salad. The result? Thousands of acres scorched, wildlife wiped out, families displaced, and more carbon pumped into the sky than a fleet of diesel trucks could cough up. Their logic isn't just flawed, it's flammable. When ideology body slams common sense, everyone pays the price. People suffer, the environment chokes, and the hypocrisy burns hotter than the wildfires they could have prevented with one smart decision and a little less #activism. And that's a wrap for today's video. If this gave you a laugh, a gasp, or even a rage-fueled headshake, hit like and smash subscribe because the chaos is only getting started. See you in the next one.